Welcome back, everybody, inside the Gamecocks, the show. Joined now live with Alex Jones for Gamecocks Smorgasbord, is what we like to call it. Alex, good to see you, man. Happy to have you back.
How y'all doing? It's good to be back with y'all.
Good, man. Good. Been too long. So, what do you got the latest on Eaglestaff? Anything further than what we've said or reported on?
I know it's a slow news day, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, really. I was not expecting that. Yeah, not really much to add on that right now. It's just that was really surprising. It just hasn't been the best of news for the men's basketball team the past 2 days. I think the Colin Murray Bulls news wasn't all that surprising just because you see where he was being projected. Like I think the sense was like if he would fall into that 20 and below range, you thought, all right, maybe he can come back then. But once you see these, you see him around the 10 range, 10, 15 range, I think you had a pretty good sense he was going to go.
Yeah, I don't know why I've maybe halfway bought into he may come back, and there were reasons he may have, but you kind of looked and look, what I was told was the draft projections by the media didn't line up necessarily with the NBA, but for him to just go ahead and say, I'm done regardless and gonna go through and I'm not gonna go through the process and then come back. There had to be some positive feedback there. I never thought it was, crazy. Not that it was unrealistic, but it was more of a 75-25 than a 50-50.
Yeah. And all it takes is one team, like one team to in that lottery range to like him in. I think a lot of it too is the thought was like maybe he can come back and work on his shot. But I think some of these teams look at it as like, okay, we'll just get him in, we'll draft him, and then we'll get the shot going, and we'll just go ahead and take him now. And I think they like what you can do around the rim already. Just we'll get him in and we'll get the shot going. And I think that's probably what's happening.
And he's got a good shot. He didn't shoot it that much,
Yeah, right.
I think what made him some money, Alex, was I guess I keep mentioning this game, and I think it was Florida. We'll ask Mike Morgan the next time because Mike called that game and was in Columbia for it. But he had something like 6-7 assists. Carolina was winning, and they, of course, blew it at the end. But his scoring numbers were kind of there, but he had like 6-7 assists in the passing. I mean, the NBA loves that.
Well, he was always an unselfish player, and I think it got to the point where middle of the season towards the end, they kind of got him to stop being unselfish and be selfish because, I mean, he would kick it out to guys who were open and the shots just weren't being made. I mean, they had open shots the whole time, but I think that just got to the point where they said, take it yourself and take it upon yourself to score. But yeah, he's I mean, you saw it last year. I mean, he's got great vision and he make assists all the time. Like I think he just got to the point this year where he showed that he could do. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see where he lines up in the NBA just because he'll be facing better front courts. But I mean, I think he's got a really bright future in the NBA.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, Gigi Jackson had a good rookie year, and then if you have him, that only helps the program moving forward, no matter what. Is that
AJ Lawson too?
AJ Lawson, yeah, and had a lot of guys from South Carolina play up there and last or whatever. As far as Eaglestaff goes, I mean, man, you go from on Monday thinking, well, there's a chance you could have Colin Murray Bulls, and you definitely got Eaglestaff to now you have neither one. I mean, where do they go from here in your estimation?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what these 5 spots are going to be important. I mean, I think you, like you said, you mentioned like you had Eaglestaff or not on campus, but in the boat. You had potential of Colin Murray Bulls coming back, and I thought you could build around that. But now you got to see what you can do with these 5 spots. Like I still think they've got to go get a point guard. I think we've seen how important that is. It is important. I think a lot of people would kind of just look back to Salon Cooper 2 years ago and see how important he was. But I think you still want to go see what you can do from a point guard standpoint. Now, maybe go see if you can find another wing as well. Like I almost think there's every spot on the floor they need to use with these 5 spots.
Yeah, I would think so too. I would just take best available.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's that, but that's disappointing. But, yeah, I mean, just a terrible bunch of news. I have no Colin Murray Boyles to me was just like wish him the best. If he's going to go make money, that's what every kid wants to do. They dream of it. In the past, we've had football guys around here go too early. But Will Muschamp and Shane Beamer have kind of cleaned that up. That was more of a Spurrier thing, if I'm being honest about it. Not that Beamer had never had a guy. I think Zaquandre White didn't get drafted and he went early, but there were some reasons for that. But I think that, Steve Spurrier was the type, he would just be like, oh, you want to go pro? Shoot, just go make that money, Vic and Kelsey.
Mm-hmm.
Go on. Shoot, Whammy tells me our defense is going to be better next year. Then 2014 happened. Oh, man. But, and that was Spurrier, though, because he didn't want to be responsible for costing anybody money. And I can admire that, too. It wasn't that he just didn't care. Captain Munnerlin, by the way, if you go to the Chief Sports Net Instagram page, No Capping with Cap, it's Captain Munnerlin's podcast. He kind of shed some light because Cap went early, a 7th round pick, but played 9-10 years in the NFL. That guy was just an overachiever, but he shed some light on it. And Spurrier wasn't as okay, just go as you may think. And so I'll tease the Instagram page and go check that out. It's probably about 6, 7, 8 reels back on that one. But now, there's very few guys that have no business going early at South Carolina in football. And so you think, I think too, so, some people may believe CMB was going, oh my God, you're making a mistake. I don't think so. I think that the tools are in place at the University of South Carolina to make sure guys are making informed decisions. So that didn't bother me. Eagles, I'm not saying Eaglestaff bothers me, but it's a much more, it's a much tougher pill to swallow, because when this kid committed 3 short weeks ago, it was almost out of nowhere. And you're like, what a freaking recruiting win, right? And I don't have anything against Hassan Deco and Kobe Knox and Elijah Strong, and certainly not Michi Johnson. But in basketball, it's different than football. The idea is, all right, this is our dude or one of our dudes, and then we're going to put these guys around them to play. Obviously, Lamont Paris complimenting basketball. Now, there's a big old hole there, Alex, like a donut, like a big donut, right?
Yeah. Eaglestaff was your prize transfer committing guy you can really build around, and we'll see kind of where he ends up. But this guy's right now going to be one of the top available players in the portal. He had 18.3 points per game or something like that this last year. Like, his scoring was, off the charts, and was going to play a huge factor for this team. And now you just got to go see if you can find a way to replace that. It may not be in one player, but you got to go find a way with these 5 spots to see if you can replace that somehow.
I don't even know my man scored 40 against Bama, 51 in the conference tournament semifinals. I think part of it is that team he played on at North Dakota lost 20 games last year too. Southern Carolina. I think there were basketball elements to it. My thing is, though, once you sign, and without knowing how it went down. I know I just kind of threw the agents that never want to end the negotiation process under the bus. Again, that's not applicable to Eaglestaff based on what I've told. Who knows how it really went down? But, if the kid was like, look, I want out of this. I've decided to change my mind. I don't want to lose. Colin Murray boys will even go find me a spot. Then I get it. It's just one of those things. I guess West Virginia is out there. They got a new coach. Also, Kentucky's been mentioned. I don't know. I haven't seen anything concrete about where he may end up. But that's interesting. That's the type of player Eaglestaff Carolina never gets. Right?
Yeah.
And they did. And I was like, wow, that's good. It's a change. And now they didn't. So
I guess the bright side of it, if you're going to look for a bright side, there's still players get into the portal every day, and obviously they still have a week to get into the portal, and obviously South Carolina can sign players who are in the portal at any point. They don't have to sign them within a week, but you see what you can get in the portal, see if you can replace it.
Yeah, nothing you can do, right? Alex is like, stop crying, you little baby. GC. Nothing you can do. Alex is the voice of reason. Nothing you can do about it. Just move on, right?
It's a loss. It's no doubt about that. It's a loss just because we've talked about it. He's a really good player. And like from a shooting perspective, I mean, think back to this past season. South Carolina had so many open shots that they didn't miss or didn't make. He would have made those shots, a lot of those shots on this team. So they've got to go find a shooter or two. I think
that's an understatement. They missed a lot of shots. Are you surprised? You watched a lot of the basketball team this year. Are you surprised Nick Pringle's going to Arkansas and Zach Davis probably ended up going to Memphis? I don't know if he's officially announced he's going to Memphis, but I've been told he's going to Memphis. Are you surprised at the landing spot for those two?
Pringle maybe a little bit. I think a lot of it with Pringle was he just fit so much better what he did at Alabama than what he was doing at South Carolina. At South Carolina, they were more asking him to be that offensive threat, a guy like a low post threat. And he in that Alabama offense, he's really kind of perfect because he could be a rim protector. And then whenever those 4 other players are shooting threes, he was down there rebounding and kicking it back out. And I think he can kind of fit in a little bit better maybe in Arkansas. And then with Zach Davis, I think with him, like if he could get back to who he was in his role for that NCAA tournament team, that's where he thrived and shined. Like when he's a guy who's cutting to the basket and then focusing on defense instead of he just got to the point this year where he was really trying to push threes. Like it was just a lot of times he would do some step backs and stuff like that. But he was so good in his role, coming off the bench or really even starting some 2 years ago where he was cutting to the basket and making plays that way.
I didn't like. I know kind of the running joke with me and my buddies and with the 26 win team was, all right, 0 for 4. Zach, let's hope Zach hits one because he can keep shooting it until he hits one. And he normally hit one, but I have to look at the stats. He may have taken more threes last year than this past year, but I didn't mind that because most of the time he was a defensive beast, and I mean his defense wasn't even good this year.
Yeah. I think a lot of the things with the 3-pointers was just being forced. Like it wasn't like he was kicking to an open three. It was just a forced 3-pointer that wasn't needed within Lamont's offense.
That's bad basketball. But different systems and stuff. I mean, guys can thrive as we've all seen. Let me ask you about this, Mike. I don't know if this is true or not, Phil. I brought it up on JC and Morgan.
Yeah.
This is way off topic, and then we're going to get back to football. I don't want to talk about baseball today. I'm mad. I'm angry. And we're going to talk more about basketball with Mike Morgan on the other side. He's going to give you kind of the big picture of it. But so I don't know if this is true because Mike on JC and Morgan says it's against the rules. But there's something out there on Instagram that says Mike Leach, when he was alive, bless him, RIP to a legend. You're not too young to know who Mike Leach is, right?
I know who Mike Leach is. Yeah,
I know. Right, yeah, cool. I don't know. I'm getting older, right? It said that he had to be talked down from going and recruiting little people. Think.
Wait a minute. Wait, I heard a little bit of this.
Think Mitty me, the guy from Willow. The actor, small people, I guess, little people. They want to recruit them, putting them in pads, and then having the bigger people toss them over the line into the end zone to score on goal line to score a touchdown. Mike says it's not in the rule books. What say you?
I can safely say I have no idea if that's in the rule book or not, but knowing Mike Leach, it would not surprise me that was an idea.
I mean,
that's some outside the box shit right there. I mean,
I bet he was watching The Wolf of Wall Street and got that idea. I think it's a fake. I think it's fake news in a lot of ways. But because he's I can't imagine Mike Leach didn't dig into the rule book. My guess is the rule book is probably against the rules, but it's a little ambiguous.
Right? Yeah.
He's a lawyer. He found an opening. I'm not saying that's negative. I mean, football, you have big people, strong people, weak people, fast people, slow people. Football's for everybody. That would be could you imagine how that would change the game? So, because I think you'd have, kind of like you recruit a long snapper, you'd have to recruit like a tosser.
A tosser.
Like I got a scholarship. I'm the tosser.
That's right. What's this T that you have listed in the position group?
It's a T.
Oh, that's a secret weapon.
TS, tosser.
Yeah. It comes out there. Tosser.
Did you hear? And the llama has chimed in. He said, "Mini me tush push." Well, it's actually more just like a toss. It's an aerial attack.
Yeah,
Does
right.
that
It's
count
an
as
aerial attack.
Does that count as a passing attempt?
It depends on who throws him, right? I mean, yeah.
You launch that dude over the line. He lands in the end zone. I don't know. I'd have to look. Hey, it's not me, folks. I didn't come up with that. Blame Mike Leach or someone out there that's being very creative. But I mean, could you imagine that staff meeting too? It's got to be weird enough working for Mike Leach.
Yeah,
because they say he wouldn't even talk about football. He'd get in there and like go off on tangents about history and just normal stuff like plastic cups and stuff like that. And
that does not surprise me.
But imagine that he's like, all right, guys, I got a strategic idea.
That's right.
And he comes up with this.
I've looked over the rules, and it's not specifically prescribed.
Does he draw it up on the whiteboard? I mean, who's going to do the tossing would be my question. I think you could have tryouts and find several capable folks. It'd be very brave. I don't know. I think I just don't. I don't know. But that was I just had to ask your opinion on that, Alex.
That'd be something.
I already asked Mike. It would change the game. I mean, goal line because what are you? So what's the rule if the line like Fred Johnson intercepts this guy and runs the other way and carries him down the field? Is that legal?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Throw him on your back, piggyback style. Start running with him, and then if you get close enough before you get tackled, you just throw him over.
And if you spike the ball in the end zone, was that a penalty?
He'd have to wear a guardian cap, right?
All right, this is almost inappropriate. Man. Anyway. Okay, so the Nana Sports chat box.
Right. We're going to run Willow on too.
If you're a club chief member, you can get in the Nana Sports chat box right here on Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Jump shot over the line like Tebow. All right, Tiffany changed the subject. Thank God. Tiffany said, "What's the numbers situation?" So I know Carolina. All right, so they lost Wendell Gregory, and then Emory Floyd's in the portal. Do you know off the top of your head? I think they're sitting at about 4 spots, maybe.
I think so. Yeah, somewhere like that.
Not somewhere like that. I know Hale had a piece up on a kicker to watch today from Baylor. Was 4 for 7. I think I read from 50 plus. I've been like going here, there, and yonder with basketball and everything else. My phone blew up. During the break between this and JC Morris. I hadn't really dove into him, but your take on taking a portal kicker, I'm in favor, and that's nothing really against Argent or Joyce or Max Kelly or Mason Love.
Yeah,
I just think that, especially if you can get a guy that can hit from 50 plus, I defended Alex Herrera, and rightfully so. I don't think Alex Herrera was a big problem last year. But when you look around the rest of college football, Alex, a lot of teams, a lot more than just about ever, had these dudes that could hit from 50 plus. But your thoughts on potentially adding a kicker in the portal?
Yeah, I think in my opinion, I think they need to, just from an experience thing. I mean, when you look at it, South Carolina doesn't have anybody on their roster right now who's going to have kicked at all in a game. And you're bringing in Max Kelly in the summer, but and Max Kelly has a big leg and was one of the top kickers by Cole's kicking. But he's going to be a freshman. Like, do you want to have a freshman out there in front of 80,000 fans kicking in big moments? So a guy from the, if it's, just saying from the guy from Baylor, like that's a guy who has experience and was pretty good. I think I had his numbers up right here. He was, 14 and 19 this past year, but he was 8 for 8, 39 in, and 4 for 7 from 40 to 49. So we'll see where that goes. But just from a kicking standpoint, like I wouldn't be surprised if they do add one, just because, right now when you kind of hear about that kicking competition, Mason Love's a guy who's really been the most consistent, it sounds like. And he's been the one too at punter too, who's I think probably can pencil in as a starting punter. And I asked Shane Beamer yesterday if he was, okay with having a guy doing both kicking and punting. And he kind of said, it's not ideal. Like, it's doable, but it kind of just, got the sense that maybe they want to see what they can do in the portal kicking wise. And I wouldn't be surprised if they end up adding one.
Yeah, I think, any one of them will do. I mean, it's just, it's a competitive disadvantage based on last year. I mean, you don't know about this year. This year,
Yeah.
maybe nobody can kick for poo, but last year, and I didn't even realize this until I started looking around at some box scores one day, and I was like, made field goal 51 yards, made field goal 53 yards, made field goal 49 yards, and I was like, wow, it's like NFL level. Maybe that's an anomaly, maybe it's not, but I think everybody would feel good about a guy that can consistently hit from 50 plus. That's gonna let the Gamecocks score more points. The offense pretty good between the 20s at all times. Sometimes when they get inside the 20s, it wasn't that good. But so what do you think about the spring game? What's Alex going to be looking for at the spring game? I wish I could be there. So you need to text me and tell me what's up.
A few things I want to watch is the backup quarterback battle. Like, I've heard a lot of good things about Cutter Woods, and I think he had a really good scrimmage this past weekend. And I think it's one for him. He's come in and really picked up the offense really well so far. And he's someone whose name I just hear a good bit about as somebody who's been maybe one of the standouts so far in that quarterback battle. And not to discount Aaron Nolan, because I think he's got a pretty high ceiling as well. And Shane Beamer's publicly talked about how in one practice he led the team or the offense on a 19-play drive. So just really interested to see that backup quarterback spot. From a Lenora Sellers standpoint, from a running standpoint, we're obviously not going to see anything from that because I imagine obviously he won't be live. But just to see from his perspective how he's worked to take that next step as a passer. Offensively, continue on the offense. I think from wide receiver, all the eyes are going to be on those freshman wide receivers, and rightfully so. They've made some noise early on in spring practice, but I'm also wanting to see those returning guys. How has Nick Harbor built off that middle to end of the season run he had, where it seemed like the light was really coming on for him? And one guy that I'm kind of intrigued by, obviously Mazio Bennett's coming into year two, and he had his flashes, but Jared Brown's one too that I think could be in line for a big season if he takes the next step. And he listened to Mike Furry talk about him a few weeks ago in his press conference. It kind of just sounds like last season Jared Brown was more, trying to focus on becoming a better overall wide receiver because at Coastal Carolina, he was more that gadget type receiver, kind of that motion stuff. But he kind of saw flashes of it last year, and he dealt with some injuries in the middle of the season. But Jared Brown's a really interesting guy, and I think could be a big part of this offense. And that's kind of the offensively, and then defensively, just seeing how this secondary is coming about. I think obviously, Vicari Swain won't be in the spring game, but what's that other corner spot looking like right now up to the Judge color? Because they got a lot of different options and can be pretty flexible in that secondary right now. You got Jalen Kilgore, who looks like he's going to remain at nickel for now, but it could be a case where Brandon Cisse starting at the other corner spot, but it kind of feels like Cisse could be a guy when it's all said and done, the season comes around, that he's going to be too good to keep off the field. And I think that's something just to keep an eye on. And then really those second-year defensive backs, guys like Jalewis Solomon, Kelvin Hunter, David Busey, what kind of steps have they taken? Because I think that's something that's caught the coaching staff's attention so far.
Yeah, I like the secondary group. It's hard to replace Nicky Manwari. I don't think you can.
Yeah.
But I think collectively they've got just about, they got a lot of good players coming back. And at corner, I don't want to downplay the loss of O'Donnell Fortune because he was quite good last year. But around here, it's kind of been like, well, how are you going to replace Cam Smith? Well, you're going to replace him with Marcellus Dial. Well, how are you going to replace Marcellus Dial? We're going to replace him with O'Donnell Fortune. How are you going to replace it? It's kind of been that way for a few years with the next guy up, which I think epitomizes the South Carolina secondary and what it can be and what it has been and what it should be. Too many good defensive backs in the state and also in the footprint to be lacking at safety or corner. I'm interested to see because Brandon Cisse's at the one corner right now with Swain out. I'm with you. I've heard nothing but fantastic things about the NC State transfer. There's a reason, even with a lot of returning talent in the secondary, they went on him and wanted him. A, he's from Sumter. B, he's just a hell of a player. He's like in the too good to pass up category. And they got him. And I'm curious to see what they do. I know, to me, and see if you agree with this, and then we'll let you go. To me, it's not necessarily like okay, we can move Kilgore to safety now because we have Cisse, like they wanted to do that all along. I think they're very hesitant because Kilgore had such a good year at nickel.
Mm-hmm.
And because in the middle of 2023, neither DQ Smith nor Nick Amiawore were good there. I mean, you want to know who they were picking on in those games they gave up all those passing yards? They're picking on the nickel. Once they made that move and got DQ and Nick on the back, and Kilgore was the nickel, things solidified, and it was a position of strength. So I think it has much more to do with how good Kilgore is at nickel than, we need him there for now because Cisse's got to do that. I don't know that I necessarily see that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's the case because the nickel spot is so important in Clayton White's defense. Like, you got to be able to play the run like Kilgore does, but also be able to cover. And I think that's the next step for Kilgore is continue to improve in coverage. And he wasn't bad there last year. I mean, obviously he had 5 interceptions. I think like he was really good. And I think it's just like you mentioned, a case of he was so good at that nickel spot that they just want to see if they can figure out that that other safety spot. And I think Peyton Williams may be the guy there right now, but don't count out a guy like David Busey or Gerald Kilgore is also working back there as well. But it's going to be interesting. Like, obviously, we're bouncing way ahead here I'm talking about the beginning of the season, but when teams get in obvious passing downs, what they do with that nickel and the safety spot, do they bring in a Bakari Swain and move us Kilgore back to safety or Cisse to nickel? Because then you got high-end cover corners at that point. And so that's just something that's kind of caught my attention to see what they could do in obvious passing down situations. And that's not something you're probably going to see on Saturday or Friday night in the spring game, but it's really intriguing because they're so flexible in that secondary right now and really kind of the whole defense. But that secondary, there's a lot of different options they can go with and really a lot of different quality options as well.
And you have Miles Norwood back there, and you mentioned Lewis Solomon as well. So it'll be interesting to see those guys that coach back there. Clayton White's a secondary guy. Torian Gray, I think, for my money, is best in the country. So that's the deal there. All right, man. Good stuff. Pride of Hampton County.
Thank you. Always fun being on the show.
Bringing your smorgasbord in here, dude.
There you go.
Awesome. Hopefully we can do this again sometime on this part of the super stream, because we like having guests. It's a little uncomfortable when we have guests. We don't have guests that often. It's like an Independence Day when he was like, we don't get very many visitors.
We don't get very many visitors, right? That's right.
Phil and I don't get very many visitors. We're like, ooh, a person. Oh, hey.
So let's stop throwing little people into the end zone. That was a perfect way to do that. It was like an awkward date.
Would you like Kool-Aid and a beef sandwich? We got that right here.
That's right.
Anyway, Alex, keep doing the great work you're doing, my friend, and have a wonderful spring game weekend, and hold down the fort.
Appreciate y'all. See y'all soon.
Thanks, Alex.
That's the great Alex Jones from thebigspur.com with Gamecocks Smorgasbord, the pride of Hampton County.